So Ubisoft called this the most ambitious expansion in the Assassin's Creed history, and I reckon it's one of the biggest load of old bollocks they've ever slapped on a box. Because for me, Assassin's Creed Valhalla's Dawn of Ragnarok DLC isn't the most ambitious anything. For me, it's quite possibly the worst DLC in the entire franchise. You pay 40 quid, it's sold on its own, and it's ripped straight out of the season pass. Billed as the biggest expansion they'd ever made, and what you actually get is Valhalla again, just with a new coat of paint, a load of riding around on your horse, and some abilities that may or may not be ripped from an older Assassin's Creed game that does it better. So let's talk about why Dawn of Ragnarok is the worst DLC in AC history, and why that game back in 2013 had already done it better. So I'm just going to do a quick little setup for anyone who gave this DLC a miss, and Dawn of Ragnarok landed in 2022, about 18 months into Valhalla's life cycle, and on paper it sounds pretty cool. You play as Odin, the real Norse god, well, real in mythology, but real in Assassin's Creed. You're storming through Svartalfheim, the dwarven realm, to rescue your son Baldur, who's been snatched by Surtur, a big immortal fire giant. You know, there's gods, fire giants, end of the world type of stuff, and it should be unbelievable and it should play really cool, but it doesn't. Credit where credit's due though, it looks incredible. Svartalfheim is gorgeous. All of that molten gold and black rock and rivers of lava looks incredible, and that's one thing you can't fault Ubisoft when it comes to their games or DLCs. So all of the ingredients are there. All they have to do is throw them into an air fryer, set it for 20 minutes, and give us something cool, fresh, and tasty to feast on. But I don't think they did that. So Valhalla itself had a season pass with 2 DLCs that came with it, Wrath of the Druids and Siege of Paris, and that's essentially what your money brought for this whole season pass thing. But Dawn of Ragnarok was actually yanked out of the season pass and flogged on its own for the best part of 40 quid. The excuse was that it was the most ambitious expansion in the franchise's history, and it was too big and too special for the humble season pass, so it had better be enormous and good. Essentially, it had to be better than Odyssey's Fate of Atlantis DLC and those 3 quest lines, because yes, we all know I'm not a big fan of Odyssey's main story when it comes to Assassin's Creed stuff. The DLC was actually really well done. I loved the Fate of Atlantis DLC because it tied into the Isu, it tied into the modern day, and to be fair, it was done pretty well. Valhalla's DLC, Dawn of Ragnarok, doesn't do that, and I think most players worked out straight away that it's roughly the same size as Siege of Paris, which remember was a season pass DLC, so they took a normal size expansion, put most ambitious on it, and then charged you on it fully for the privilege of playing it. One of the top user reviews just flat out calls that a blatant lie as well. So right there, before you've even booted the game up, I think that's the tone set. And to be honest, it doesn't get any better as you play through the DLC. But price aside, let's talk about the thing that annoys me the most with this DLC, and is it any good to actually play? I think no. You spend most of this DLC traveling from mission to mission, and that's pretty much it. You look at the map, you see where the next mission icon is, you set off, and then you ride, and you ride, and you ride across this massive golden map to go and do the thing, capture the character, kill the person, get an object, and then guess what? The next icon's halfway back across the map on the side you just came from. So off you go again, back the other way. When you get there, of course, the next one's on the other direction, and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it's just really annoying. And what makes it worse is that the gorgeous world I just praised is there's nothing in it. You ride for 3, maybe 4 minutes through this beautiful lava landscape, and there's nothing to stumble across. Yes, okay, you might be able to rescue some dwarves, but that's pretty much it. It's very much similar to Valhalla's base game, and even then, after a few hours, that got really boring. It's essentially a pretty wallpaper to drive past, so the exploration doesn't feel like exploration at all. It just feels like a mirror you're following from one point to another, sort of like you're commuting to and from work. It's not really that fun. And I reckon if you sat there and timed it, you'd spend more time of this DLC holding forward on a stick than doing anything remotely remotely fun or doing the auto follow feature. And I get it, okay? A bit of travel is fine. Every open world game has it. But when the traveling is the experience, when it's the main thing you're doing minute to minute, you've got a pretty serious problem. To me, it seems like Dead Time dressed up as a big, beautiful world, and it got on my tits very quickly. But to be honest, it wouldn't be as half bad if the stuff at the end of all that riding was worth it, but it isn't, because the missions are the same handful of things on a constant loop. You go here, kill some enemies, grab something, free some dwarfs as I mentioned. Now you have to travel halfway back across the map to go there, kill some enemies, grab a thing, maybe free some dwarfs. That's pretty much the entire DLC. There's no real variety to it, no real clever set pieces. There's a couple boss fights, but even then they feel pretty basic and something you can complete very quickly. You could describe the first hour of this DLC with the last hour in the exact same sentence. And of course, as an Assassin's Creed fan, there's basically no actual stealth. It's the same as it is in Assassin's Creed Valhalla's main game, just with some added abilities to this new weapon you get, which we'll talk about later into the video. But yeah, other than basic stealth we already have, the actual missions and locations aren't necessarily set up for that. The powers themselves only give you one stealth ability, or two depending on how you look at it. Most of them are due to combat and things like that, so it's really annoying. This is Assassin's Creed, right? The series built on sneaking, on hidden blade, on picking your moment and vanishing before anyone knew you were there, and to me, Dawn of Ragnarok just isn't interested in it. It wants you charging in as a god, mashing your powers, and then moving on to the next icon, which is fine. It's a power fantasy, I get it, but there's a way you can use stealth and give the player that power fantasy of an Assassin's Creed game without having to hand me the same fetch quest 30 times in a row, because it gets to this point where you have to ask yourself, what am I paying 40 quid for here? And then let's talk about the story, because surely that saves it. You're Odin, you're king of the gods, on a desperate mission to rescue your own son from a fire giant. That should hit like a truck and play extremely well, but it doesn't. The whole story just sort of happens in the background. For a plot with the actual apocalypse in it, it's shockingly flat. It never really builds, it never grips you. There's no real big emotional gut punch where you feel the weight of what's going on in this world. Loads of people who played it noticed the same thing, that across the entire DLC, there's really only one properly good cutscene. One. In a 40 quid expansion, they managed one moment that actually lands with the player. And the thing that stings most about this whole DLC is that it actually takes place inside Eivor's head as some kind of simulation or memory pass corridor sort of thing, so none of it really connects to the actual story. No Templars, no assassins, no hidden blade, no modern day thread. It's pretty much Norse cosplay with an Assassin's Creed logo bolted onto the front, and that's fine as a fantasy romp, but then you have to remember the mad interconnected sci-fi mystery that the series is supposed to build up on, and that what Valhalla actually did with its main story. It was able to tie the mythological side of Eivor and Odin and Basim and all those characters together with the sci-fi mystery part of the franchise, which I was a huge fan of when I played this game. It's just for some reason the DLC doesn't do it. And when you replay through the first opening Eivor/Odin missions that you don't actually have to pay for, those ones play better than this DLC, which I don't seem sitting right with players who paid the money to get this DLC. Now, to its credit, there is one part of the game that a lot of us are pointing to as its saving grace, and that is the powers, the Huga Rip. So it's a gauntlet that lets you rip the soul, the Huga, out of a dead enemy and steal their abilities. You can turn into a raven and fly about the battlefield. You can transform into one of the enemies, walk through fire and lava without a scratch, and infiltrate an enemy base that way, which, okay, I guess has some stealth elements to it. You can then also raise the dead with one of the abilities, allowing you to control some of the enemies that are dead and have them on your team. Very anime solo leveling inspired with that one. And you can then have a teleport ability, which is also pretty cool. And all of these do tie into Assassin's Creed some way, but the thing that nobody really talks about is that we've done this before and we've seen it done better just 10 years earlier. So back in 2013, Assassin's Creed got a DLC called The Tyranny of King Washington. It's an alternate history storyline where Washington gets his hands on an apple of Eden, goes mad, crowns himself King of America, and Connor has to bring him down. And in it, Connor gets these animal spirit powers called the wolf, the eagle, and the bear. And it was 3 episodes spread across these 3 powers: the infamy, the betrayal, and the redemption. You got 1 new power per episode, and every single one of them was woven right into the story and the world. The wolf turns you invisible and lets you summon a pack to fight for you, so that's your stealth. The eagle lets you fly between rooftops, so that's your parkour. And the bear's your big, devastating ground smash, which gives you the brutal combat of Assassin's Creed. So each power turned up with its own chapter, tied to the overall plot and world of that story, and it really gave the DLC a proper identity and shape, and really told the Assassin's Creed-esque nature of the whole thing through these powers. Dawn of Ragnarok, though, doesn't really even attempt to do that. It just gives you the Hugo Rip in the first hour and goes, there you go, off you pop, with no structure, no real reason, no build-up. It's just a toy box for you to dip into between fetch quests, and to me, it was really annoying having to figure out how to get these new abilities just without them tying up to the story. You essentially just go kill an enemy that looks a bit different than one you've killed before, get their power, and see what it actually does for you. That's essentially it, and once you get a certain power through the story, all the others are just out there for you to go and get. I would have liked them more to be tied into the overall story of the game, like they were in Assassin's Creed 3. It would just be a lot better for me in terms of gameplay, story, and just making it feel a lot more connected to Eivor's character or Odin's character during this DLC. So yeah, I'm not that big of a fan on it. But that's Dawn of Ragnarok right there for you. A 40 quid ripped out of the season pass, sold as the most ambitious expansion ever when it's a normal sized reskin of a DLC we've had in the past. It's a DLC where you spend most of your time just traveling, the same quest on repeat, no real stealth, and a wasted story that isn't even Assassin's Creed, even when we've had outlandish DLCs with Odyssey's Fate of Atlantis that did tie into the Assassin's Creed world and all of that mystery and sci-fi and all that good stuff. I get it though, some people really like this DLC because the powers are cool and the world is a stunner. But for me, once you add up the price, the line on the box, the endless writing, the copy and paste missions, the flat story, and the fact that they'd already nailed this exact idea a decade earlier and then completely forgot how it was done well, I just can't recommend this DLC for anyone that wants to play through something like this. But that's just my hot take on all of this DLC. I know some of you will disagree, so go on and let me know in the comment section down below why you do, but also let me know what the worst DLC in Assassin's Creed has been for you, and if I was too harsh on Dawn of Ragnarok. But if you guys enjoy these types of videos, make sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I hope you will have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video.